Hello and welcome to the program. I am Deji Badimasi. Now, to say the ruling All Progressives Congress is now a house of commotion might not be an understatement, as the party is grappling with lingering crisis that seems not about to end. The party's lead into confusion last year when the Court of Appeal upheld the suspension of then National Chairman Adams Oshomole. APC then appointed Yobe State Governor Memala Buni as chairman of its caretaker committee. Speaking after his emergence, Buni assured APC members of justice in managing the crisis in the party. Now, after almost 2 years in the saddle, Buni has been unable to end the tension within the party. Rather, his stay in office as caretaker chairman is now a major cause of disaffection, with many chieftains accusing him of harboring secret plans ahead of the 2023 general elections. Already, scores of litigation now trail both the party registration exercise and the nationwide congresses conducted by his caretaker committee. In addition, there are crises in at least 15 state chapters of the party, which reconciliations, of course, by the Buni-led committee have failed to resolve. The committee announced that it will conduct elective convention in February, but some members of the party are insisting the Yobe State Governor and his team leave office immediately, as February is not too far away. As it stands now, there's no concrete assurance that the convention will take place in February. Some governors are already pushing for its postponement. This development has led to another crisis, with some members dragging the party to court. President Muhammadu Buhari has, however, urged the party to settle its dispute or risk defeat in the upcoming 2023 general elections. The crisis currently rocking the party appears to be spiraling out of control, and if not contained, could cost the party dearly in next year's election. Well, let's discuss this further. I'm now being joined on the program by Nelson Akujimi, who is a political affairs analyst, and joining us from Abuja via Skype is Jide Ojo, who is also a political affairs analyst and a public commentator. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let me start with you, Nelson. You look at the APC, you look at what is going on in the party. The governors, for instance, were supposed to meet with the president last week. They were actually supposed to meet with the president on Sunday to discuss the convention. That meeting did not take place. And what we've heard after that meeting, not pleasing at all. Truth is, there's a problem in the party, and it's becoming a very difficult nut to crack.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the truth of the matter is that unless the members of the party at the top level, puts their act together and rally the party together as a single boss with all its members, as a drivers in the bus, the party might be heading for a larger crisis. It's unfortunate that, the indiscipline that has pervaded our private lives, we have also seen it, unfold, in our political stroke public space, because you will know for sure that a party is a conglomeration of interests, and wherever those interests are at play, one expects the collective interest to take the front seat. But unfortunately, we have seen a situation whereby the gladiators are more interested, in actualizing their own personal interests far and above the party's cohesion and unity. And unfortunately, like President Muhammadu Buhari rightly warned in the media chat, I think the earlier the party top hierarchy does the needful, they might be going into the 2023 general elections, like a shepherd with scattered flock, and you all know what that portends politically for any political party.
Jide, part of the blame has been put at the doorstep of the president, that he is the leader of the party, but unfortunately that he has not been able to exert control over the party. He's essentially left the party to a few individuals who are running the party, and that he's just not been able to call them to order, and that he takes the big portion of the blame here because he seems to be very, very, very aloof when it comes to the affairs of the party.
Well, thank you very much, Deji. Happy New Year. I wish you a very pleasant and blissful 2022.
Thank you.
Yes, the president shares in the blame, But we all know the nature and character of President Muhammadu Buhari, that he is not one to meddle in the internal affairs of his political party. And let me do a bit of history to what has culminated into a national crisis in APC. Recall that in June 2020, Adams Oshiomhole was removed unceremoniously removed as the chairman of APC, and President Muhammadu Buhari at that time stepped in and asked that there should be an interim caretaker committee that will pilot the affairs of the party for 6 months. 6 months it was meant to be. Ami Malabuni, who happens to be a former secretary of the party, but currently the governor of Yobe State, was appointed among the, I think, 13 or 14 member committee that was meant to pilot the affairs of the party. Now, 6 months has turned to almost 2 years. Malabuni's caretaker committee conducted last year ward, local government, and state congresses for the party. Now, this became very problematic as about 15 states at present have parallel executives. Kano, Lagos, Oyo, Osun, quite a number of states, Enugu and the rest of them. And former governor of Nasarawa State, Abdullahi Adamu, reconciliation committee was set up to reconcile all fielding members. Unfortunately, many have instituted cases against the party over the congresses that were less than transparent because of the clause in the party's constitution, that's section 20, where it says that consensus could be adopted rather than election.
Yeah.
I think a political party should have rooted for election rather than consensus. Now, it seems that APC, just like PDP in a 16-year rule, have a different definition of what consensus means. My own layman's understanding of consensus means unanimity, that we all agreed that this should be adopted. But where you have a large chunk of the party members and leaders not aligning with the consensus option, I would have thought that election would have been the next thing to be done. But in almost all the 36 states, none of the congresses, to the best of my knowledge, was resolved through election. It is consensus, in which case we now learned the governors have planted their loyalists in all of those party structures, from ward to local government and to state levels. And that is part of the reason the National Assembly gave while it decided to amend Section 87 of the Electoral Act 2010 as amended, which now stipulated that there should be only direct primaries. Because the thought of National Assembly is that with the governors having infused their loyalists into the party structures at the ward, local government, and state level, it becomes a fait accompli that anyone that does not align with his or her state governor will have himself to blame.
Let me just quickly step in there, and because part of the problem, and many have identified too, that probably the bigger problem of the party is the influence of the governors, and that the governors are actually the reason why things are the way they are with the party now. I mean, we've had some governors, for instance, who are actually making a case for the Malabuni committee to continue and even go on to organize the presidential primary of the party. I mean, it's something that no one actually ever foresaw. But as we speak today, some governors are actually making that case. And people have said, look, if the influence of the governors, if their influence is not whittled down a bit, then it's difficult to see how this crisis can be resolved.
Well, yeah, well, that's true. But like you rightly put the blame on the president, in 2020, he stepped in to resolve the impasse at that time by asking Oshiomhole to leave and for Malabuni caretaker committee
And
to be
you would agree with me that the president did that at the instance of the governors, because the governors actually pushed for that.
well, that may be true, but then what we are seeing now is a spiral effect of the influence of governors, because now the National Assembly is trying to push back by amending the Electoral Act in such a way that will not hand over the party primary conduct of party primaries to the loyalists of the governors who are poised to be the one to conduct the primaries at the state level. So now some interested parties have gone to court. Some are seeking resolution through advocacy to the powers that be, from the president to other party interests. Even the Director General of the Nigeria Governors and Progressive Governors Forum, that's Comrade Salihu Lukman, has come out very strongly on the Malabuni committee. And I think the party, unfortunately, the party does not have board of trustee in place since it was formed. If the board of trustee had been in place, even with Malabuni caretaker committee, the board of trustee chairman and the entire board could have called him to order and say, okay, I give you between now and February to conduct this. Because what some governors are pushing for is that all the reconciliation moves of Senator Abdullahi Adamu should end, that the reconciliation effort should first be concluded before they will now have convention. Meanwhile, party primaries are scheduled for the third quarter of this year. And if there are fallout of the convention, it will still need to resolve that before they go for primaries.
Okay, but
so
let me bring in Nelson here. Nelson, you look at what is happening. I mean, Jide did talk about the Abdullahi Adamu-led Reconciliation Committee. Whether you like it or not, as we speak today, despite the effort of that committee, there are still problems. That committee was in Lagos recently, and we saw the way the governor of Lagos did made a passionate appeal on the committee to try and resolve the problems within the party. Even the party has a problem in Lagos. There's no question about that. I mean, not quite long ago, we saw some members of the party defect to the PDP. Now, do you think, in all honesty, Nelson, do you think the crisis rocking the party, that this Abdullahi Adamu committee can reconcile these differences within the party now before the party primary, presidential primary now that is scheduled for, because INEC has come out with a timetable. Well, party primaries must be concluded by June this year. So that's not far away.
Well, if they have the sincerity of purpose, and if those they are talking to are also sincere in the deliberations, a political party is like I said earlier on, a political party is a conglomeration of interests. It is not left for those within the party to subsume their own personal interests for the collective interest of the party. And unlike Jide, I disagree that Mr. President should not be held culpable for this internal crisis. If Mr. President has put his foot down and said, look, let the constitution of the party take supreme, rather than being, railroaded into exiting unceremoniously the former chairman of the party, Mr. Governor Adams Oshiomhole, they won't be in this mess. If the president had put his feet down that, look, this chairman came into office via the party convention. And if the man is going to leave office, he can only leave office via the convention. But when you throw the man out through the window, then it gives room for so many plots, to manifest. And that is why the party is in crisis now. But going further, it now behoves on the Reconciliation Committee to do its work honestly and dispassionately. And for me, it is not too late in the day if reasoning will take precedence in the conduct of the affairs, because you expect the reconciliation committee to go to the states and talk to the gladiators, asking them, what do you want? What is the grievances? How do we resolve it? So the gladiators in the states, like we have, it is not left for them, to be ready to win some and lose some for the collective interest of the party. Otherwise, the consequences are just out there. They are very, very clear.
And let me quickly ask you, do you ever envisage a situation where the Buni-led caretaker committee goes on to conduct party primaries, for instance, the presidential primaries? Do you ever envisage that kind of situation?
It is an aberration.
Because some governors are actually pushing for that.
Yes, it is not out of place if some governors are pushing for that. Like we all say most of the time, that self-preservation is the first law of humanity. Those governors are pushing for that because it will further their own interest. But it is not left for the party itself, the members of the party at the top hierarchy level, to come together and say, look, the caretaker committee cannot be in office for eternity. It is an aberration for anybody to even consider the caretaker committee conducting the primaries of the party when the convention has not even taken place. There was even this report I read where a former governor and now a senator was even canvassing the primary of the party as well as the convention taking place on same day. It's a room for chaos. So I never envisage that the party will be in this mess, and this will be a warning signal to every other party that there's the need to put their house in order. There's the need to put in place elected or appointed party executives to run the affairs of the party the way it should be. But when you have a situation whereby gladiators are dictating, today it is A, tomorrow it is B, next tomorrow it is C, the consequences are, it's an invitation to chaos.
Let me quickly ask you this, Jide, before we go on a short break and then come back. The Memala Buni committee was appointed in June 25th to be specific, 2020. And this is 2022, almost 2 years. If that committee, because I remember when he came on board as chairman of the caretaker committee, he said he was going to very quickly reconcile the various factional interests in the party. But close to 2 years now, he's not been able to do so. What exactly can be achieved between now and before February, when the convention is expected to take place, or even between now and June, when the party is expected to hold its presidential primary?
Deji, it is said that excuses are the tools with which the house of failure is built. All these excuses that they are fishing for, if they are followed, like Nelson said, followed through with the constitution of APC, there is no provision for caretaker. Caretaker committee is an aberration. And ordinarily, even if you have that and your mandate is for 6 months, now it's over 18 months that you have been in the saddle and you have not been able to reconcile all the warring factions. Then let the convention hold, and then you can, because whatever you do, even if you adopt consensus to choose the next chairman and the executive of the party, there will still be those who will be aggrieved. So it is best for them to align with, even if they are initially scheduled February 5, it's no longer feasible because they need to give INEC notice of the convention. They can still have it sometime in February. Let that be done and dusted. It doesn't end reconciliation. Reconciliation will still be ongoing, pending the time that, what one will push for is that all the warring factions, all the aggrieved members will have been fully reconciled ahead of the time the primaries will hold. And the governor's influence on APC needs to be whittled down. They are leading the party to ruination. They are leading the party to the Golgotha. That was what they did in PDP, where many of them came from. And that's what they are still doing in APC, where many of them defected to. They want to be the Lord of the Manor. They want to be the emperor. And the president, unfortunately, because he's serving at his second and final time, doesn't seem to care about what becomes, and he should be mindful. The reason why President Muhammadu Buhari should be mindful of history is that if APC dies with it means he's just on a personal aggrandizement mission. Because there have been insinuations that it seems that APC may die with President Muhammadu Buhari. And, there is a connection between the crisis in APC and the non-signing of the Electoral Amendment Bill. The bill. Yeah, because people are drawing a nexus that peradventure APC wants status quo to remain. That is why they are playing out the scenario of 2018, where the president will have cause to veto, and then when he resents, they will now raise the issue of drafting errors, cross-referencing gap, and by the time they tinker with that, the president will say, oh, sorry, it's too close to election. ECOWAS protocol tells us that we should not amend the law 6 months to election. All of these insinuations have to be doused. The conscience of the party needs to be awakened now. The leaders of the party, unfortunately, people like Baba Akonde, people like other elders of the party seems to be partisan in who they are supporting against who they are not supporting.
That's true.
And when you have that kind of elders that cannot shoot straight, the elders that will talk from both sides of their mouth, nobody will want to believe them.
Okay,
you can see the controversies that Baba Konde's book, my participations have.
Let's just quickly take a short break here. And when we come back, I want us to look at what impact now this crisis could have on the party presidential primaries. As we know, quite a number, some top members of the party have started declaring their interest now for the presidential election in 2023. And there's no doubt at all that the crisis rocking the party, if not resolved, could affect the presidential primary of the party. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Welcome back, and if you've just joined us, you're watching Analysis, and today we're discussing the internal crisis in the ruling All Progressives Congress. And I have two guests with me. Nelson Akujimi is a political affairs analyst, and Jide Ojo, of course, is a political affairs analyst and public commentator. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Let me come back to you, Nelson. You look at the crisis affecting the party, and you look at the coming presidential primary of the party. If this crisis is not resolved, don't you think the presidential primary might be impacted very, very negatively?
Absolutely. Apart from the fact that some aggrieved members will go to court to challenge the propriety of holding the party convention for the primaries, you don't forget that some other persons might come up and conduct a parallel convention to produce the party's flag bearer, and the outcome is very, very obvious.
And it appears with what is happening now, the ground is like what is happening now is preparing the ground for that.
Absolutely. So it's commonsensical. You don't need a soothsayer to tell you that some persons will gather somewhere and say, look, we are holding our own congresses, we have our own convention, we have produced our own presidential candidate, and at the end of the day, the party will have to, be busy sorting out itself in court when it should, be busy, telling the electorate why they should, queue behind the party and, re-elect the party once again, to take over, to control the affairs of Nigeria. And, the other party will have, if the other party are not also in this mess, the other parties, will be more focused on their campaigns.
And then part of the problem is that if you have governors who are controlling the party at the moment, and quite a number of them are also interested in the presidential ticket of the party, then that is a recipe for crisis.
Absolutely, absolutely. But the issue about the parties, the issue about governors, this has been a recurring decimal It was one of the crises that PDP battled with all through until they were voted out in 2015, and we have seen it rear its ugly head again, even in the APC. I think the time has come for us, to even look at the constitution of the party. There's nothing wrong in the governors trying to wield their influence. It's within their rights as elected public office holders who are members of the party. But by and large, we should look at the constitution of the party such that the powers of a governor, will not be greater than the powers of any ordinary member, because on election day, no governor goes out there to campaign, to throw his weight around and garner votes for his party. A governor with his wife goes to the polling station on election day and casts just a single vote. And that should be the way they should conduct they should conduct themselves even within the party. But repeatedly, we have seen situations whereby, like Jide rightly said, the governors have become lord of the manor. And the time has come for us to even research into these governance activities and come up, with a workable solution that would tame, this monster that we are rearing.
But Jide, let's tell ourselves the truth. If the governors, as they say, are the ones funding the party, they are the ones providing the money, you don't expect them not to exert some kind of control.
Well, that is failure of the party leadership. The governors are not supposed to be the one to fund the party. The members of the party are supposed to be the one to fund the party. I mean, just last year, after the registration and revalidation of membership of APC, Secretary of the party, Senator Akpan, said that they have over 40 million members. If the party truly have over 40 million members and each member is asked to pay 100 naira, that is over 40 million naira coming into the party's cover every month. And I feel very strongly that even if you ask each member to pay 50,000 membership fee, after all, people pay as much as 1 million to join golf club. If you ask members to pay 50,000 naira annual membership fee, that would be billions of naira coming into the party. So you do not have any right to expect a governor to be the one to pay salaries and emolument of party officials in their respective states and at the national level. So it is failure of party administrator not to have ensured that party members pay their dues. Apart from dues, there is also what is called special levy for all appointees of the party. All the party members that are holding political office, they also have special levy that they pay, which is legit. It's already spelled out in the constitution of the party that these are legitimate ways by which the party can make money for its administration. If that is strictly followed, Deji, I do not see why a governor should be the one to pay the bills of the state executives or local government executives or ward executives. It should be picked up by the party leadership. And mark you, as they go into these primaries, look, in Ekiti and Osun, the nomination fee for every aspirant is 22.5 million. I mean, 25 million. It's 25 million or thereabout. That is a lot of money, because in some states you could have as many as 10, 15, 20 aspirants. Yes. And these are non-refundable fees. So if you are garnering that kind of resources that runs into billions in the form of sales of nomination form, in the form of the levy, special levy from all ministers, special assistants, aides of the president, and as well as other people who are appointed into the boards of ministry, department, and agencies. If these people are paying those levies as stipulated in the constitution of their party, which is legitimate source of funding, then there shouldn't be any issue with non-payment of salaries or not having money.
Unfortunately, Jide, we haven't got time, but let me just quickly ask you this. How do you see this crisis? How do you see it affecting the primary of the party, and even the process now leading to the primaries? Because as we speak now, a number of the members of the party now have started indicating interest for the presidential ticket now. How do you see this crisis playing out in the face of the primaries of the party?
What I would suggest is that leaders of the party, and I'm not insinuating governors alone, governors, ambassadors, statesmen within the fold of APC needs to gather and resolve this lingering leadership crisis.
And maybe it's the president who needs to actually gather them.
Out of court. This has to be resolved out of court because litigation will prolong the matter. So they need to use diplomacy. They need to use the internal organs, conflict resolution organs of the party to resolve the crisis, but they need to do that expeditiously. Otherwise, this will be taking the party to Golgotha.
And there's no doubt at all that if that kind of meeting needs to happen, then the president needs to be at the center of it. The president needs to be the one who should be calling that meeting and then, pouring out his mind and just saying it as it is. But if the president chooses to still just stay on the sidelines in the name of,
non-interference.
In the name of non-interference, then I really wonder how things are going to pan out for the party. And of course, just as both of you have said, it will be very bad if the party dies after President Buhari leaves office. Well, we just have to wait and see. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on the program and for sharing your deep insights on this issue. Thank you very much for your time. Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. We thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.